Imagine standing at the edge of a fire-lit clearing. It's 20,000 years ago, and your tiny band has just finished a brutal 6-day trek. Why walk for nearly a week? Because this time of year, everyone walks for 6 days to get to this exact spot. Suddenly, you're surrounded by people you've never seen before. Different dialects, completely unfamiliar face paint, and a totally electric atmosphere. Different tribes are mingling, trading stories, and sizing each other up across the flames. Then it happens. Someone on the other side of the fire glances over at you and immediately looks away when you catch them looking. Ah, yes, the classic pretend I wasn't staring move. Turns out, awkward flirting isn't a modern invention. It's thousands of years old. Make no mistake, this is not a random encounter. In every practical sense, this fire-lit gathering is the Paleolithic equivalent of a singles mixer. Events like this have been happening for longer than spoken human language has likely even existed. By the time the fire burns out tonight, choices will be made that shape the next 50 years of these individuals' lives. And, quite literally, determine the genetic future of humanity itself. So, how exactly did our ancestors pick their life partners? First, let's throw out the single biggest lie pop culture ever told you. The image of a violent caveman dragging a woman by her hair. Absolutely false. Total fiction. There is zero archaeological proof that marriage by clubbing was ever a thing. So where did this myth come from? Blame Victorian cartoonists in the 1800s who drew silly newspaper comics long before real archaeology even began. It was meant to be a throwaway gag, but over the decades, people lazily accepted it as historic fact without ever checking the receipts. Search through thousands of Paleolithic dig sites, cave paintings, or burials, and you'll find absolutely nothing supporting violent bride abduction. Why did the trope survive for over a century? Because making ancient humans look like brutish dummies made Victorian society feel super sophisticated. It flattered modern egos, but science has finally busted the myth wide open. So if it wasn't brute force, how did ancient people choose each other? Toss the crude tropes in the trash. The real truth is far subtler, way more clever, and surprisingly romantic. To uncover the real story, scientists had to stop looking at cartoons and start reading something much smaller: human DNA. In 2017, geneticists excavated Sunghir, a famous 34,000-year-old Paleolithic burial site in cold northern Russia. They found multiple individuals buried together in ornate, beaded clothing, expecting them to be one tight-knit, isolated family. But when geneticists analyzed their DNA, they got the shock of a lifetime. Wait, these people buried in the exact same tomb weren't closely related at all. Genetic analysis proved they were no more related than total strangers. Inbreeding was virtually zero. This meant ancient humans were doing something incredibly intentional, seeking partners from entirely different groups. Anthropologists call this practice exogamy, systematically mating outside your immediate kin group to keep the genetic pool strong and healthy. They manage this generation after generation, without rule books, modern science, or writing things down. Their genomes reveal a clever, structured social system built around intentional networking. Which brings us right back to those grand seasonal campfires. They weren't just for survival, they were organized social infrastructure. Ice Age bands timed their travels carefully, tracking massive reindeer migrations across wide-open plains. They assembled at fertile riverbanks during salmon runs or in forest groves during rich berry harvests. These seasonal hubs doubled as the Ice Age version of Tinder. Same goal, just way better scenery. But instead of swiping left or right on a glass screen, you showed off your best moves around the central fire. You shared meals, demonstrated your skills, and captivated the crowd with vivid storytelling. Everyone was showing off their unique strengths to stand out to prospective partners. Naturally, this raises the ultimate question. What qualities actually made someone attractive 20,000 years ago? If you think it was just about who could carry the biggest heavy rock, prepare to be surprised. Bringing dozens of distinct bands together created a thriving social ecosystem based on mutual attraction and choice. Away from the main crowd, individual connections flourished under the starry night sky. For decades, popular wisdom claimed hunters got all the mates. Bring home big game, get the girl. Simple, right? Sure, being a strong hunter was great. Meat feeds the group for a night or two. But when anthropologists studied the Hadza hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, they discovered something amazing about storytellers. Storytelling acted like a peacock's tail. It was a powerful signal of high intelligence, sharp memory, and social grace. A great storyteller could hold the whole community together, teach vital lessons, and resolve group conflicts effortlessly. Unsurprisingly, listening to a charming, witty partner was wildly attractive back then, just as it is today. In fact, data showed that skilled storytellers consistently had more children survive into adulthood. Intelligence and cooperation beat brute muscle in the long-term evolutionary game. Long after the fire died down, the person who kept everyone feeling safe and connected was the real star. Brains over brawn. That's how our ancestors built strong, lasting family bonds. Why did humans value cooperation so heavily? Blame biological reality. Human infants are ridiculously expensive to raise. While a newborn chimp can cling onto its mother instantly, human babies can't even hold up their own heads for months. Raising a child to age 10 required vast calories and constant safety. A single mother surviving completely alone in the Ice Age was almost impossible. Mothers needed reliable help from dedicated partners, supportive grandmothers, and the whole tribe. Anthropologists call this cooperative breeding, and it fundamentally reshaped human romance forever. Women weren't just asking, is he a good hunter? They were asking, will he stick around for 10 years to help me raise this child? It truly took a village. Reliability and steadiness became the ultimate high-value traits. This survival pressure is why humans, unlike most great apes, naturally evolved toward long-term pair bonding. Kids raised with 2 invested parents, plus extended family, had dramatically higher survival rates. Teamwork wasn't just a nice ideal. It was our ancestors' single best survival strategy. But hold on, pair bonding back then didn't look like a rigid modern wedding contract. Prehistoric relationships were surprisingly varied and fluid, depending on the environment and culture. Some hunter-gatherer bands were strictly monogamous, while others practiced flexible, multi-partner arrangements. Certain Amazonian tribes practiced partible paternity, believing a child could have multiple biological and social fathers who all shared caretaking duties. And if a partnership simply wasn't working out, breakups were surprisingly smooth and allowed. No messy divorce courts, no judges, no societal shame. You simply packed your gear and moved on peacefully. Without property or legal contracts tying people down, personal compatibility was everything. We often assume ancient relationships were rigid and modern ones are free, but history actually ran the opposite way. For tens of thousands of years, humans enjoyed a remarkable level of relationship autonomy. Flexibility kept the peace and ensured the band remained harmonious and strong. Archaeologists have uncovered physical proof of ancient courtship, and it's surprisingly touching. Take the burial beads at Sunghir. Each single ivory bead took up to 3 hours of painstaking labor to carve by hand. A single outfit decorated with thousands of beads required hundreds of hours of focused dedication. Ocean shell necklaces have been excavated hundreds of miles inland, traded hand-to-hand across vast continents. These weren't practical tools or warm clothes. They were crafted specifically as gifts to win someone's heart. They used rare red ochre pigments and artistic flair to show off devotion and artistic talent. Carrying a rare shell 300 miles inland is literally the Paleolithic version of showing up with fancy imported roses. It showed effort, skill, and genuine affection, the universal human language of love. Handcrafted jewelry became the ultimate expression of commitment before money ever existed. These tiny beads carry a clear message across time. Romance is deeply ingrained in human nature. Then came the agricultural revolution, and everything about romance got complicated. As humans settled down, built farms, and accumulated land and livestock, a cold new concept was born: private property. Suddenly, marriage stopped being about mutual affection and transformed into a financial contract between families. Arranged marriages and political alliances quickly replaced personal chemistry and free choice. Dowries, inheritance laws, and strict control over women's choices dominated early farming empires. Ironically, as human society became more civilized, personal romantic freedom heavily plummeted. The simple freedom to choose someone because you liked their stories was locked away behind family politics. Property rights turned courtship into business transactions for thousands of years. It took millennia for society to shift back toward prioritizing personal choice and romantic attraction. But that ancient instinct to choose our own partner never truly died out. So bring it back to today. You're 3 messages deep into a conversation with a stranger on your phone. Or maybe you're locking eyes with someone across a noisy, crowded room at a party, trying to decide if you like them. Guess what? You aren't doing anything new. You're tapping into an ancient biological impulse. You're participating in a ritual that predates cities, predates farming, and predates written history itself. Tools change. Technologies evolve, but human heart and mind operate on the exact same core code. We still look for warmth, intelligence, reliability, and someone who makes us laugh. Across tens of thousands of years and millions of generations, the search for connection remains unchanged. You are walking the exact same path that brought every single one of your ancestors together. You are still standing at the edge of that ancient fire-lit clearing, making your choice. And just like thousands of years ago, finding the right person makes the long journey entirely worth it.